This is the most scared I've ever been of AppSumo, of our existence. It really gave me a lot of hate. With TidyCal, the same thing is instead of trying to squeeze at 1 million, why don't you try to squeeze at 100 million? Like you can literally code businesses on your phone today. It's bonkers. He was very driven not on making money because he had a Yahoo offer for $1 billion. And imagine you're being 23 and turning down $1 billion.
Today on Billions, I'm sitting down with Noah Kagan, the guy who got fired from Facebook before it was worth $1 trillion and turned that loss into the biggest comeback story in online business. He went from losing a fortune on paper to building AppSumo, a $100 million a year bootstrap empire, all without raising a single dollar of VC money. Noah, thanks a lot for being here.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
When you joined Facebook, I read that somewhere. That was a long time ago. It was in 2005.
Yeah.
Your package, from what I read, was $60,000 and 0.1% of the company. So like 20,000 shares. Today, these shares will be worth billions of dollars. Is that something you think a lot about or not at all?
Not anymore. Now that you remind me of it, thanks.
Sorry for killing the vibe.
No. I think people tend to do well when they have some type of thing to prove. And that gave me a lot of motivation for decades.
Nice.
It really did. It really gave me a lot of hate and drive and an opportunity to want to prove myself on my own terms, on my own way. And so, yeah, when I joined, I got 0.1% of the company. And it seemed just obvious to me they would get to where they are. And it was an amazing learning experience. And it took a lot of time to kind of get over all the money I lost. But I also recognized, I guess the way I internalized it or rationalized it was like, I didn't earn it. You know, like, yeah, it would have been nice to get a few billion. But I think at the same time, it made me want to feel like I have to go create that money myself. And I just took the last year off in paternity leave
Nice.
for my daughter, and it was pretty boring. And so and my point is, and it was actually really fun. I'm back at work, which we'll get to later in the story, but my point here is that if I was a billionaire, liquid, what would I be doing, right? Would I take the year off? Would I still be working? I lived like a billionaire, right? So I think when people hear billions or they hear these stories, I think most of the billionaires are probably unhappy. Right? Like to get to that level, a lot of times it's a lot of sacrifices that are probably not worth it. And you can live like a billionaire, which is private cars, some private jets if you want, and so forth. And I don't know, I just kind of enjoy the lifestyle that I have, which is back at work, being with my daughter in the morning, daughter in the evening, working during the day. And I don't think you need to be a billionaire to get there. So I'm kind of grateful back at work and not living the billionaire year off lifestyle.
And you mentioned, that you joined like really early, and from the beginning you knew it was going to be like the company it is today. I think you were employee like number 25 or 30 or something like this. Is there any leadership lessons or stuff you learned that kind of help you build the business you build today?
Yeah, it was surprisingly a lot. I mean, Mark was, surrounded by a lot of excellence. He was getting advice from Peter Thiel. He was getting advice from Mark Andreessen, from the Excel partners, from Sean Parker. The people around him have all gone on. Dustin Moskovitz went on to do Asana. Noah Kagan went on to do AppSumo. Saleo, who's a designer. Aaron, just really amazing people. So part one is he did a good job putting himself in a place to get advice from the best. So I thought that was, first off, I didn't really recognize it at the time, but it was like, oh wow, he is surrounded by excellence. Secondly, he was very clear on what he wanted to do. He was very driven not on making money because he had a Yahoo offer for $1 billion. And imagine you're being 23 and turning down $1 billion. I remember I was there and he's like, yeah, I just turned down $1 billion. And I was like, I'll take it if you don't want it. And so I was impressed that he wasn't just about the money. He was very clear that I want to connect the entire world. And it was just such a strong vision with conviction that that was really powerful that I've taken into AppSumo, which is, to the first part, I try to surround myself with a lot of great advisors. Part two is, what's the opportunity? What's the future that you're excited about? Like, let's take AppSumo. Like, wow, there's a lot more software with AI being created. Like, how are people going to get distributed in the future? can we help be the place that all software deals get distributed? So his vision was just gigantic, and a lot of conviction on that. And then I'd say the third thing that he was very good on was focus. And I think I came from more of a, even at that time, I was only 22, had a very clear bootstrapper mentality. That was always my angle. And I was like, let's make money. And I remember going to Mark numerous times, even though we were, VC funded, I was like, we gotta make profit, man. Come on, let's go like sell tickets. Or I thought, like, here's an example. We have a product at AppSumo called TidyCal, and you can get paid. You can get paid to have meetings with people. So you create your page and people want to meet you, they pay. And I think right now it's doing like $1 million a month in GMV in processing. And so what I learned from Mark was a lot of people are like, $1 million a month, like what's your cut? It's like 0. And he's like, okay, well, take 2%, and I think that's the common approach, especially if you're bootstrapped because you want to make a business. And I remember what I appreciate about Mark was his focus was like, no, I want to grow. And once I get to that level of growth, then I'm going to squeeze. He called it, he's going to create a toll booth. And with TidyCal, the same thing is, instead of trying to squeeze at $1 million, why don't you try to squeeze at 100 million or $1 billion? And I just appreciated his focus of like, no, we're going to focus on growth and later monetization. And it was very singular. It was singular at that time when I was there. And I think for some time afterwards, it was a singular focus on the amount of people on the site or weekly active users. And so within our business at AppSumo, historically, it's been net revenue. So like, what's our net revenue target for the year? I think there are some problems with only having one goal, but we have found just focusing on whatever the one thing that you're aiming for to be more effective in getting there.
And do you feel like from the beginning, do you feel it was obvious at Facebook that they would start monetization at a very specific point in time? Because following on your point, you can start on TidyCal, you could start a monetization at 100 million or at 1 billion or at 10 billion. But how do you decide, what number is the right one?
In some games, there's network effects. So if you try to squeeze too early, you lose the growth opportunity because you're focused on that. And some things are zero sum, or like if you get all the people like Airbnb, then you could charge fees everywhere. But if you try to charge fees too early, then you don't get all the network, or you don't get all the usage. You're going to limit your potential, and potentially someone's going to take you out. And so what Mark did was that it used to be called AppSumo Facebook Flyers for some of the old school people there that are listening. And it got changed to Facebook advertising, which I helped build. And it was there, to be clear. We did have ads and it was making money, but it wasn't the focus. It was never like, hey, we have revenue targets. It was never there. It was never the thing. And so the point being is that what I've taken with AppSumo is like, how do you test something to validate it? So I think if he tried to grow to $1 billion and had zero monetization idea, I think that would have been a better approach. But I think he understood in a deeper way, in a broader context than I did, that, hey, like I wanted to sell tickets in the Facebook events or groups and sell memberships in groups and things like that. And I think he understood that there was revenue potential from the advertising. And if we had the world connected, given that he already has some data insight that ads can work, like at the larger scale, it's just going to multiply its impact. But over focusing like MySpace did on the monetization, it stymied its growth. And so I do think, especially if you're VC funded, it is easier to focus just on growth. But I would, for all businesses, validate in some way where, I can't tell you how many products I've built, Guillaume, where I've built them, didn't really validate there's monetization, and then try to go find customers, and it was just impossible. And I begged people. I'm like, please use it. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, it's my brother. He won't even use it. And so I think, again, the clarification here, just to be very specific, is focus on one thing. If it's not monetization now, I think I would at least understand that there is some monetization available for you versus like waiting till the end of the road.
Yeah, makes sense. And you mentioned, and I think you've done it like really well, surrounding yourself with really smart people. I think the team at AppSumo is great. And I think we'll get back to that topic also a bit later.
Yeah.
But you mentioned about you mentioned mentors and the fact that Mark, had those really good mentors from either VC funds or entrepreneurs like Peter Thiel, etc. On your side, because you were working with all these early employees at Facebook, can you still connect with them, exchange with them, or is it totally something different now?
I messaged one of them about a month ago. His name's Saleo. He's like one of the best designers I've ever seen. And he replied to me. But I don't keep in touch with a lot of them. I think about it from time to time. Like we do layoffs at AppSumo, or let people go. And I remember getting let go, and I remember how much I thought about it. And then I realized now that as I run my own company, that the company moves on. Everyone just thinks
Okay.
about themselves.
Yeah.
And so all those people that were there were like, oh yeah, Noah, yeah, he was a little wild, and yeah, I remember that guy, and I'm sure Mark knows who I am. I worked for him, but they're not thinking about me the way I thought about them afterwards, and how much it changed my life and my trajectory. And so the advisors or mentors I've gotten since then, it's been more directed. It's been more problem focused. So like, I'm struggling with marketing economics. Like, so we went and hired this guy named Moody, who was the CMO of Zapier, and paid him like $1,000 an hour to work with us. And then it was like, okay, what are other specific areas? Like, we had some people stuff. Like, we grew pretty quickly to 100 plus people, and so we hired the chief people officer of Duolingo, this lady named Christine, who's amazing. And so try to have access to the people that have done the things that can answer specific problems based on where you're at in business. And you don't have to go to the $1,000 an hour people. There's people at $10 an hour, or there's a lot more people available that can answer the question than you realize. And getting just one mentor is probably unrealistic unless it's like your dad or mom.
Yeah,
It's hard to get people to care, man. Everyone's selfish. Everyone, and that's not a bad thing, but to get people to take an interest and genuine interest is tough.
Yeah, makes sense. And when you launched AppSumo, so I think we touched base on this earlier. Obviously, like you were saying, like there's a lot more tools being created, especially with AI. AppSumo can become like the distribution for these tools. You started like with lifetime deals, and there's also like the thing with lifetime deals that sometimes where people feel that it's kind of like devalues like software.
Yeah.
Because software are usually like bought on a monthly basis. But how exactly do you balance like helping new founders while also keeping it like sustainable in the long run for the business?
Yeah, we jumped right to it, Guillaume. I mean, how was it for you? Like, how was being on AppSumo? Like, what made you want to be on AppSumo initially? I think it was 2018, 2017.
Yeah, 2018. We were just getting started. I think I received a message back then from Jeff, and
Yeah.
I was looking at your content, at the audience, and I was like, for us, it was just an amazing way to have like a huge amount of people give feedback on the product, to make like enough money because we were bootstrapped, so a bit of money like to kind of like get started, and really create like a community like to help us grow. And my experience, and every time someone asks me about AppSumo, it's been amazing. To be entirely honest, like I mean, I'm not paid to say that, but
I know. I gotta get you to. I gotta.
no, but seriously, like the way the team, like worked with me, like you invited me to Austin, you invited me actually to your house, and you remember that you were not there when I arrived, and they were like,
I came later though. I came later.
Yeah, you came later, but I always remembered there was like a piece of paper, on the. You have to put yourself in my shoes. Like I'm a French guy in Texas, where I believe that everyone has guns and they can shoot at you if you enter like the backyard. And I see like a piece of paper on the door that says like. Feel free to enter. Like there is actually like you have headphones on the left side that you can use. And then I take the headphones, and basically it's you speaking to give a tour of the house. and I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. That was cool. Fun. Yeah, that was really fun. I made like a little my house to the listeners. It's not like I have some crazy mansion. It's it's a good sized, nice house.
It's a nice house.
But I just thought it'd be fun to have like a little audio tour for when people come over, if they want to just like learn about the rooms in the house. We do all have guns. That's a whole separate story. I think for your audience, I'm guessing either wants to be billionaires or wants to be multimillionaires or whatever that is. I think what's interesting, even just before we get into the AppSumo story, because it's a jump. It's like fired Facebook. Okay, now you have a company. I kind of think of it like I was lost in the woods. Just trying to find my way, right? Which I think is for a lot of people. It's like, how do I use Lemlist to try to get more customers, or how do I use AppSumo to grow my software business, or use some type of platform, YouTube, maybe Twitter, whatever that is, to grow your businesses. And so I just tried a lot of things, and I think I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of frustration, a lot of jealousy from Facebook days. And it was like 10 years of like trying and some success and some failure. But everything kind of kept leading me to a point. And what I encourage more people to do is like, especially if you don't have kids, if you don't have like a wife or a husband, like take way more risk, because there was no risk then, right? Like I didn't really have anything to lose. And so it was a lot easier to just be like, I can just try whatever stuff. And now that there's a family and there's less time and there's a lifestyle, I'm noticing it's different. And in that period, it was awesome. It was hard, but awesome at the same time, because I tried so many things. And, literally it's the Steve Jobs quote, like only when I turned 30 did I realize I could say like, oh, wow, all of these steps in my career, from Facebook to I got fired at mint.com and I didn't make millions, to doing conference businesses, to doing Facebook games, to doing payments for Facebook games, to doing consulting, to doing all these things, to eventually get to the problem I was excited about, which is promoting software, promoting things. And so it took all those failures and successes and experience to get to AppSumo. So the biggest thing for people is just take action today, right now, right? Like listen to the show and do the thing on your phone. Like you can literally code businesses on your phone today. It's bonkers. Like I had my friend next to me who's just coding things on his phone that went live. And I was like, what an insane world versus when I started building web businesses. Like I had a literally physical server in Fremont, California to host my website. Like that was some old school stuff that now people don't even know what that means. I didn't even know what the new stuff is.
Now, what do you feel is, I'm curious to know, like, because I'm seeing a lot of people willing to start companies and not actually taking action. So I'm curious to hear your thought. Like, do you feel like there is a certain characteristic or a certain like character of people who actually take action? Or do you feel it's something that you must learn and eventually start doing it? Because I see a lot of people with great ideas, but they never, want to start. They never want to take risks. So where do you feel like that come from?
We promote products at AppSumo, and one of the things that sadly, I spend a lot of time seeing if the founders are serious. And we didn't start the business doing lifetime deals. I started the business with Imgur for 1 year free, 1 year at a discount, and then I did bundles, and that's a whole nother story. But today, when I'm promoting a founder on AppSumo, I really have to be like, is this person serious about a business? And what does that mean? It means that they're not quitting when it's just a little hard. That's really what it means. And what I observe is that some people right now, what's amazing versus literally even 5 years ago, is that 5 years ago, like yourself, you had to be serious to have the website, the online business. Like you couldn't just like vibe code Lemless. Like you had to code it or find a coder. You had to get a design. Then you had to do all this stuff to get it just to the website. And now that's opposite. You can have that in a minute. I literally made like a TidyCal clone in a minute. And so what happens then is that if you can do it so quickly, which is amazing, that means there's more cool tools out there. There's more stuff. But who's going to actually stay with it? Who's going to sustain? And I think to your question about the people today, is it's just as long as you take it seriously and you're trying, it doesn't matter if you fail. As long as you keep trying and try, you will eventually get to something that works. Like that's why even my book, like my whole book is just about, you got to start and you got to ask. And then you just stick with those things. You keep going eventually. And most people are either playing around like it's just a game, which is like, all right, well, you're not serious. It's just a hobby. Or they never start, right? Like they just kind of dabble. They like put a little bit and like, okay, it's like, no, it took me so long to eventually find something that worked. And then once it works, like it's like finding a wife. Like, are you married, Guillaume?
I'm not married, but in a relationship.
In a relationship. It's the same thing as in a relationship. I thought once you find a wife, you don't have to do anything anymore. You can get fat. You can be mean. It's like, no, I have to do even more now. And I think that parallel is very true for business, which is it takes time to find the right business for you. It takes time to find the right wife. And once you find it, it then takes time to kind of keep developing it and improving it. And it's available for everyone to do. And they just have to take themselves seriously and give themselves a little bit more confidence and belief that they can do it, because they can.
I think it's nice that you have that view on relationship and business that is like very close, because I think like very few people understand that when something is actually fragile, in a sense that it can break or, you can just lose it. it's only when you really believe that something is fragile that you actually like take a lot more care about it. In the same way you have like a vase from, I don't know, your great grandmother, and that could break at any time. Just because it can break, you actually like do all these things to make it work. And I think it's very similar when you have a business that works, or a relationship that works. You want to keep it, and you want to continue because you've struggled so much for so many years that you know how precious it is. And I think it's pretty valuable.
Yeah, I was thinking about, do you know what fantasy football is?
Yeah.
So there's fantasy football for soccer in America or whatever. I've played fantasy football, which is an NFL game in American football. And I literally, I'm up at 7 a.m. looking at the players and reading analysis and watching YouTube videos. And then like on Sundays, my wife, when the games were playing, a lot of the NFL games are playing, she's like, did you lose in fantasy today? Is that why you're mad at me? Is that why you're mean to me? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and I'm trying to grasp and understand it. And to be clear to the people out there, I don't think there's like a special person. I think Mark Zuckerberg, who I've worked for, and Bill Gates, who I've met and worked for, Steve Jobs, who I met briefly, didn't work for, they're special. But the reality is everyone else out there is special in some way and can succeed. I believe that. And what I talk about fantasy football is that I just take it seriously. And when I lose, it's because I just care. And if people can just take that into their businesses versus like, hey, I launched a vibe code thing, I complained on Reddit with one post and nothing happened, like that's not, you don't care. You don't have the pain that you want something enough. You don't have the hatred or the drive or the motivation. And so I would try to figure out how you can get that, how you can find like a dream or hate and anger, whatever it is, to motivate these people, to push them to be able to get the lifestyle they want.
How much do you think it correlates with discipline, the seriousness of getting started?
I think what I would say for myself is two pieces of advice. One, I have a very annoying mother. I have this like super annoying Jewish mother that is just so annoying about things. And I say it in a productive way. And her persistence, I think, rubs off on me. Like she's always bugging me and my wife about things. And I love my mom. She's not going to listen to this podcast, so I can talk as much honest about her. And I tell her this, but she's just she'll never stop, ever. And I think that genetically there's something in me about that. That's part one, which if you don't have a Jewish mother, go find an annoying friend that just will never quit on you. Find someone who'll never quit on you. Like I do have friends that are always being like I had a friend today, he was voicemailing me. He's like, dude, I'm talking about things going on at AppSumo and the problems we're having. He's like, I know you're going to solve it. I was like, are you sure? I don't think I can. He's like, I know it. I was like, wow. Get friends like that. Find people around you that think you can do it. And then in terms of discipline, I'll give you advice and I'll give you action. So the advice is I tell myself I have like unusually high discipline. Like I just tell myself that. Like I say, wow, you have such a high tolerance for pain. You can suffer. You can out-discipline anyone. So it's not even that that's true. For some reason, my script has been written that my discipline is insane. And now the question is, if other people want discipline, which I think is a pretty usable thing, right? Like there's no discipline needed to eat ice cream, right? You don't have to have a discipline. You're like, okay. And so what I do is I practice discipline every single day in small things. So here's ways that people can build up their discipline power and ability. It's a skill. And so if you see something on the ground in your house, pick it up. If you see a dish in the sink and you're about to go to bed, what's the story you want to tell yourself? And I tell myself I have high discipline and I take care of these things. And if you do that with kind of silly things over and over, like I literally, before the show, I was putting away my shoes that my daughter took out, and she took out my heart rate monitor. I put that away. I know those are small little confidence builders that are reinforcing my narrative that I have high discipline. And so then it leads to high discipline around when I say I'm going to be on time for the show, I come here at 11. When I say I'm going to deliver something at work, when I say to someone I'm going to follow through, like it's more and more evidence that that's going to come true.
Nice. So it's for you, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything pretty much.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, most of the time. I met Peter Thiel. I had dinner with him. and he's fat, and then there's like Reid Hoffman, who's really, really fat. And I don't mean that derogatively, but I think there's an assumption from people who are not where they want to be, or who I don't know if it's envy. I wouldn't say it's envy, but they assume that some of these people, to be Elon Musk and, to be at these levels, that you have to like discipline on your things and all of the other stuff. And it's like, Peter Thiel was talking about how he can't stop eating cake. And so it's like, you could still have a lot of success without discipline too. I think that's fairly the unsexy thing to say. I think discipline has helped me, but there's also times where like, yeah, I'm not really, desserts I have good discipline, but like sometimes with drinking, I'm like, no, I'm gonna get drunk, and I'm gonna drink more. But there's also times like 2 days ago, I really wanted this cookie. I said, just wait for tomorrow and then you can have the cookie. And then you know what? The next day, yesterday I had the cookie and I was like, I'm so proud of you. I look, it's silly. You're laughing. You're like talking about a cookie. It was a snickerdoodle, by the way. It was delicious.
Nice. I have a sweet tooth,
cookie.
so for me, it's sugar is yeah.
Oh,
I can't
really?
stop with sugar. Yeah, I love it.
Oh man. And so it's a silly example, but for me that works. That's the way that I've been able to take pride in following through with the things I say I'm going to do, and build my confidence in that.
That's nice. And when like because you started talking about the early days of AppSumo, of iterating until you kind of find like and prove the business model. I think you grew AppSumo to around like 2 or 3 million a year, maybe 4 million a year, before you kind of like step down from the CEO role. Like what was the reasoning behind it, and why did you decide to come back after a few years?
Yeah, it's been an adventure. So AppSumo is over 15 years old. When we got to around 4 or 5 million, I was running the business for about 4 or 5 years. And at that point, I was a little frustrated of personally just doing deals. I was like, okay, we find a deal, Like it just wasn't. And this is the tough part. I think there's times where people like persevere through it. But by the way, if you don't persevere for it, find someone who will. Like you found Charles to run Lemless. Like it's not that you're not persevering, but find someone who's hungry, that's qualified to do it at that time. And so at that time, my belief was that, and it's still to this day, like AppSumo's problem is that we're still having to go find the next deal all the time. Whereas like Airbnb, the inventory is always there on the marketplace. And so I went to Eamon, or we went to Anton, and then we had a big application, and ultimately Eamon, we just said like, make $100,000 a month and keep the business afloat, and just do that for 2 years with training and stuff. And then I went off to build Monthly 1K, which is a course, and then we went off to build sumo.com. And so it was an interesting experience. Eamon, which we kind of left him for dead, honestly, we left that business for dead, just really focused on the basics. I think that's, my superpower is like this product market fit, rapid iteration, 0 to 1. And Eamon was really good at doubling down, slow and steady, compounding. And so he like improved the marketing, improved the affiliate, improved the sales team, improved the deal type. Actually, Eamon and his team, Jeff and Ullman, they invented the lifetime deal. Like I didn't start with lifetime deal. I think they saw that as a potential. They tested it, and then that's part of our values: test and invest. And so they launched the lifetime deal. It crushed, and that's how everything eventually, over probably 7-8 years, then now became lifetime deals. Eamon quit in 2020. I was biking across America, and then he calls me when I was on my bike, and he's like, "Hey, I'm quitting." I was like, "Can you just wait till I finish my bike ride?" He said, "Sure." And then I called two of my advisors, and my advisor's like, if he wants to quit, it's like you have someone asleep at the steering wheel. They don't want to be there. And I think that's true for people at your company. Like someone quit at AppSumo last week. Was it Monday or last week or Friday? And it's like, well, they don't want to be there. Great. You help them find a place they want to be. And that opens a spot for someone who wants to be there. And so I flew back. This was in 2020. And it's been a rocky 4 or 5 years since then. Eamon's still an advisor. And then I took a paternity leave in 2024. I took another year off. And we've had a lot of problems again in AppSumo. And so I came back in September to work through things.
What's like, I feel right now you have like this, the Airbnb example. I think you really like it with the marketplace and the fact that there is availability and demand that's still there and you don't have to chase deals. Is that like how are you thinking about the business right now, and what's like keeping you up at night?
taking a step back, the title of your show is Billions, which is, I guess today's economy, you have to say trillions. That's your next show.
In a few
Billions is too
years.
small. Yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
too small, sorry.
Yeah. Going back to where we started the conversation, Mark thought gigantic. And there's something there where it really is. And I hear people say this shit. I don't believe it. But now I believe it. It's that it's the same amount of work either way. So at least work on the thing with the bigger opportunity. That really, it's a cliche thing, but it really is true. And, with AppSumo, what the bet that I identified early on was that software was going to get big, and it did. So, I bet on the right thing, and that worked out. The thing that keeps me up at night, I was literally up till 1 a.m., is more that the model that we evolved to isn't as aligned for everyone today. Right? So this lifetime deal model that we do, which is for people that don't know, we go and find a product like Lemless, which is when they're early stage, and we say, hey, you're super early. Let's do a lifetime deal. Normally you're $20 a month. Let's do $100 or $500 for life, and we'll split it 50-50. And so that was working a lot better when there wasn't AI costs.
Yeah.
And that AI cost really only came out 3 years ago. And the AI stuff has done two parts, which is one, you can't know your costs for the next forever in life. But when you have like a email outreach tool that doesn't cost anything to run, you're like, sure, for life. So that's one part that we have, that's a huge problem. And then the second problem is a company like yours even, which is you have these customers, and it was nice to get the money. It was nice to get the feedback. It was nice to get the exposure. A lot of people have a lot of amazing experience on AppSumo, but 5-10 years later, you have these customers that maybe aren't paying you anymore, but are still using the product, and you develop the product more. So you as a partners, even you guys, you're not as incentivized to give them all the new features. You're not. And so,
yeah, of course.
Every business has competition, right? Ideally, you want a monopoly, right? I like what Peter Thiel says. You want a monopoly, like you want to be a utility company or like Airbnb or Stripe a little bit, and so then you have no competition. But there's always competition, and there's always generally you have to evolve, and so that's what we're working through today, and it's stressful as hell, and it's thinking about we have this business and it's good, but like, it's not just to grow. I don't want to grow for growth's sake. I want to help partners win. I want to help the customers win. I want to help our business win. And I want to work on these projects where I think I can see a potential where it can get to beyond $100 million. The money doesn't actually really motivate me as much. Like now that once you get to some amount of money you have that you can live your lifestyle, it's like, okay, I make a little more or a little less. I'm not as excited. Like I want to do work that I'm proud of. That I'm like, wow, that was like, we put out this Black Friday bundle with Reclaim and Bolt and Hostinger, Emergent, and Pika, and it was like awesome. And it was a lot of work. And I was like, I'm so proud of that. And I think with AppSumo, I'm really proud of it. It was a great bundle.
Nice.
It sold well.
Yeah.
And what I'm working towards, and what's keeping me up a lot at night and working through with partners, and I was on a call with 2 customers today, is how are we, I don't want to blow up what's working because it's been working for a decade. But also, is this going to work for the next decade? And how do we transition productively? Right? Like think about Google. Like Google, they still have search. That's still like, I don't know what % of the business is still a majority, but they also have these other bets that have like Gmail and Waymo that have gone on to be pretty significant for them. And so it's just trying to balance that with all companies, right? Like all companies have a core business that works. And so do you keep evolving that? Is there unlimited evolution there? Or is it, totally new areas? I think our core business is still the answer, which is GDM. Like distributing products is still the most valuable thing. Like your company, number one thing is, all right, we want to grow. So how do we help more of these companies continually grow? And that's what we're solving.
And something I was thinking, when you reach out to me like a few days ago or last week, like to discuss potential partnership, etc. I was curious because I think like one of your strengths really at AppSumo is the affiliation part, where you actually have like a lot of partners that can help with affiliation. And I think for SaaS companies, it's always like tricky, like to set up real affiliate program. I know for us, it took us like quite some time, to get the partner, etc. And I feel like for your business, you have basically like in a similar way as YC, Y Combinator get like a lot of like startups. Eventually, they only invest in the best. And from the best, that's how they get like such a high return, down the line versus like other VC funds or whatever. On your end, I feel it's pretty similar. Like you make a lot of bets on company. You always believe, that they're going to be successful, and that's what you try to help them do. However, only a few will succeed. It's a human law of nature. Like, I don't know how we want to call it, like Darwinism or whatever. But eventually, like for Zeus One, don't you feel like that you could leverage what made AppSumo the success it is to find ways, to partner at like a larger scale and on a different scale, actually?
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to you guys about that. I think what companies have to understand is, where can you win? So for instance, like a lot of companies, let's say you guys, you have an affiliate program and you use probably PartnerStack or Rewardful or, Tolt or one of these guys. It's really interesting you can, especially if you're starting a business or running a business, you can be discouraged from everything. It's very easy to get discouraged. What do I mean by that? I have been exploring, like, how do we help, we launch companies, how do we help them launch better? And then once they launch, like you guys, years down the road, like, how can we continually help you grow? And so I've been going to companies and asking them about their affiliate program, because we do have a very effective affiliate program. When people get on the AppSumo platform, we have thousands of people that make videos and tweets and emails and consultants. And I go to people about their affiliate program. And the interesting thing is that it's never more than 10% or 15% of their revenue. And they're never excited or angry about it. They're always pretty neutral. And I will tell you, I have found it insanely hard to sell neutral.
Okay.
It's really hard to sell neutral. And so you want to find something that people are pissed about or like can't wait to give you that money. And so we're testing, some affiliate options for people. We're testing different deal formats. We're testing building some of our own products to help partners like yourselves grow further. But before we start building a bunch of stuff that no one wants, in a day where you can build anything now, everyone can. It's finding the things that people actually really need help with. And so coming backwards, it's like, what's the problem? And the problem is people still want distribution. So it's working through, okay, well, what's the best way we can help the people we want to help?
I think distribution is definitely like the place you're going to want to look at, because especially with AI, as you mentioned, so many more like tools coming up, and I think it's going to be key. Over the years, like, do you feel like the quality of your community or newsletter or subscribers, how do you maintain like a high quality? How do you maintain like your channels? Like, what are kind of the tips you could share around that?
It's interesting. Our community at AppSumo, I think there's three types of audiences. There's one audience, which is a lot of them, which is serious agencies, marketers, entrepreneurs, like very serious. Like they have businesses, they run, like I got off a call with a guy named Sean. He runs a design agency in Florida. He comes to get tools so he doesn't have to pay full price. And that's a lot of them. And then we have another category of people who are kind of playing around, like buy it and play around with it, which is, it happens. We call them entrepreneurs in the past. And then we also have this third category of like collectors. So it's kind of like a trading card. It's like a baseball card, and they call it investment. So they buy a deal with the hope that the company does really well. And then they have this tool that they were able to get as a bet early on. And there's an interesting number of them. And so candidly, it's been a challenge to manage these, because we have people who are requesting the most that are never even using the products. Like they'll be like, I want this, and I'm gonna rate it so badly. And whereas like I built AppSumo with the intent of finding a product that someone made that I really want to tell people about and give it to people at a special price for people that are going to use it, or maybe potentially use it a little later. And so it's been a struggle. It's definitely in December where we're at, like one of the key things I'm working on. And so what have we done about it? Basically, there's kind of two pieces that we've done. One is moderation. So what are the standards that you want to encourage in your community and in your business? And so we have community guidelines, and then we basically wrote bots to enforce our community guidelines.
Okay.
And so it's been really effective, actually, because it's like, here's our guidelines, and now the AI bot can actually, it's just a custom bot we built, can enforce it. And that's why you see on like Twitter and certain places, like people use their real names now. There's a non too, but like every company should say, what's the guidelines you want? And also when people are using our products, like you are leaving comments, you can see more about them, right? How many reviews have they left? How long have they been buying this stuff? So it gives status in the community. And then on the other side of that, what I'm spending time on in terms of the community and the channel is like, who do I want buying the products? And what's the accepted behavior and how do we objectively measure that? And so we're looking at data to understand what's acceptable refund rates. Like we have people that refund 88% of products, 90% of products. And we're doing an analysis about what's appropriate of that, right? And ultimately it's like, yeah, there's revenue there, but what kind of behavior and customer are you really getting in your company? And so we have a goal of a certain refund rate we're targeting. I think it's around 28%, which is, I think, pretty high. It's good because people want to try the products, but also maybe they're just trying and buying everything. They're never serious. And so we're doing an analysis then more objectively here to drive like, okay, these are the kind of categories of, everyone now calls them ICPs. Everyone loves this ICP, ideal customer profile, whatever. I call them marketing agency Matt. I like real people. I don't like acronyms. And so who is that person and what's their behavior? And either you fit the customer we can serve really well and you're within that category. And if you're not, like maybe AppSumo is not the place for you to be buying things. And so it's rewarding and encouraging this behavior and setting parameters. I don't want to share all of them, so otherwise they'll get abused. And then the people outside of those parameters, letting them know this is not the place for them anymore. And so we have to be willing to give up short-term revenue for a better long-term business.
And right now it feels like you are kind of at I'm not going to say like a crossroad because obviously you have like a business, that's very like successful, but at the same time, like you're also looking for what's coming next. Is there like anything that you're particularly excited about, like for the coming months or like years or projects, where you feel like you really have an edge? Because it seems that you spend a lot of time with your customers trying to understand, like what's something like really painful that you can solve.
I think for any business out there, if you are not texting your customers or Snapchatting or WhatsApping your customers, you're losing. I text customers and partners almost every single day. I'm like, hey, we're working on this video. What do you think? Hey, did you like this thing? Hey, tell me if you see anything ever. Every single day. And it's awesome. It's a cheat code. Like I just spent this morning talking to customers. Like they'll tell me what they want. Doesn't mean I'm going to just do everything they say. But, I think some people, especially if you're in an internet business, it's so easy to abstract yourself and you want to abstract. The whole goal of an internet business is never to talk to anyone. But that's really the goal, right? The goal is like, don't do any work, get rich. Like that's what everyone I think is aiming for. And that's I don't know if that's fully possible, but I think the rewarding one is actually talking to the person, seeing how you're benefiting them, and then improving things with a specific customer in mind. And so the things that I'll be honest, like I think AppSumo is at a very fragile point. I'd say Lemless, you have AR and these things, so it's a little better business model from that perspective. But like the way AI is making things easy to create, the way things are moving so quickly, I think a lot of people just don't know. And so in a world of uncertainty, how do you create stability? And so for us, it's understanding like what's the real problem that everyone's having, which is distribution. So that problem is still there for you, for Tabby, which is a finance tool we're promoting today, for Vercel, they're running ads. Bolt, we have a deal with Bolt in one of our bundles. And so what I'm excited about is that if distribution is still like the biggest problem, whether you're an indie hacker or you're VC funded, how can we help you in this really kind of fast changing world? So I think with our core business of software via AppSumo, we're aggressively testing just new deal types. So instead of lifetime deals, which is $50 forever, can you do 50% off forever? So it's a lifetime discount, which is actually better aligned for everyone because you're generally going to pay your subscription if you use it. The companies want recurring revenue because they have recurring costs. And then for us, we get a better stable business model providing that distribution. So that's one we're testing out. And we're testing out other things there to help in this new environment. Like, can we sell credits? Everyone's got credits now and tokens. Can you sell those at a discount? Or sell them at a special price and sell them ongoing for people? And so we're aggressively testing that to find out what will really have product market fit. Because I think sometimes people just, oh yeah, I know, I had success, I'll just do it and it'll work. It's like, it's never been that way. And then our other bet that I'm excited about, which is kind of like a moonshot bet, is we have this product I told you, Tidy Cow, that's doing about $1 million a month in GMV and processing for helping people run their businesses. And so can we 10x that next year if we actually focused on it? Because right now we build a bunch of our different products, but what if we just took one and really try to help people grow their own businesses? Like that's the ultimate thing in a business. If you can make your business how people grow their businesses, like you have a very valuable asset. And so those are the kind of two high level bets. The main focus is AppSumo, and then there's a moonshot team called the Originals that's trying some of our more crazy bets.
What I found also interesting when you were mentioning the 50% off like lifetime is that it also like matches the kind of customer you want to work with. Because you were saying that, you have like this three kind of people, including the one who kind of like see deals as baseball cards, like they really want to collect them and they're gonna ask for a lot even though they don't use it. With the 50% off, it's also something that people will not want to lose long term. Like they don't want to lose that discount. So if they cancel or if they churn, potentially, like the deal stops, which I think is great. Like you have a lot of private membership clubs where, let's say, they ask you to pay like an entrance fee that is like really high. Let's say like, I don't know, 10K to join the club. And then it's like a monthly fee. And eventually, if you decide to stop and you have to come back, you have to pay again that monthly fee, like that monthly setup fee. So yeah, I think it's interesting. And yeah.
I don't know if it'll work, to be clear. We're testing it out without building anything. So we launched one this week, which is with Nas.io, and we're just giving out the coupon. So it's just like, here's a code. And then if that works, it was able to do that quickly. And so if it works, then we can then build out more functionality to make that easier. But yeah, I mean, candidly, this is the most scared I've ever been of AppSumo, of our existence. Granted, we have distribution. Right? We have an audience that cares. We have a brand that's known. We still have a lot of things going for us. So we're in a very good place, but this is where I could kind of see where companies fail, which has been really interesting. And they fail because they get scared and they get timid, and then they have a legacy business that makes money. And that's what we are. It's not that, and look, there are some companies that lifetime deal totally makes sense. And you see a lot of like WordPress plugins that have lifetime offerings. Totally makes sense. There's almost no cost to them. And maybe there's no more maintenance, but you can understand it. And so it's very hard to go to the next branch when you're holding on to the old branch. And so we're trying to understand how that can look moving forward, and then be clear on the tests for it, and then act decisively once we have a little better understanding in the next few months.
I'll be watching this.
I'm watching too. I mean, I think it's at least I feel proud of myself for being in the arena, for being on the court, for
taking risk.
Yeah, it's a risk. It's easier. I mean, it was pretty easy to sit out for a year and not complain, but just comment and criticize. And I call it the seagull theory. I don't know if I even invented that, someone did, but seagulls fly in, they complain, and they fly away. And
the worst.
It's no one likes a seagull. And so at least I'm with the team. Trying to be in front and lead. I think about leadership a lot. I think about what is leadership? How do you lead? How do you be effective? How do you get people to go to a direction? How do you stay optimistic? How do you have clarity and get, do these things that people are excited to move forward with you? And that's, I guess I don't know if I haven't felt that in a long time with AppSumo. I felt like I've been, kind of been riding in an autonomous car. Whereas like, the team, we got deals, this guy, Jeff, gets the deals and kind of do it. And then I think we're seeing some of the writing on the wall, which doesn't mean we have to blow up what's working, but understanding how do we evolve it and do that quickly.
And talking about the team and the leadership, a topic, because I know we are like almost out of time, a topic I wanted to talk to you about is like you've seen like the VC rocket ship with big fundings. Now you're like bootstrapping. I'm curious, like what's your view on stock options or stocks? Or like how exactly is the company managed on that side? And how do you make sure like to incentivize people enough that, they stay in the long run for the company's success?
Yeah, I talked to one of our key people and I was like, oh, have you looked for jobs recently? And he's like, yeah, I checked out another company. I was like, it's like talking to your wife. And she's like, yeah, I was texting this other guy. I'm like, what are you doing? And on one hand, who was I talking with? I was talking with YNAB. I don't know if you know YNAB. It's a budgeting software. Very cool guy, Jesse. And I looked at the people on LinkedIn and it was so impressive. A lot of his people have been there 15 years. And I was like, that's impressive. And on one hand, you could think, okay, he's got a lot of people who don't do anything anymore and they've just been coasting, or he's created such a company that they want to be there. And so everyone's got different motivations. I think in a world of today of AI, we're going in the opposite direction, which is more companies are bragging what they're doing with fewer people. Like it's actually the flex now is like, we have 35 million ARR, like you guys, and we only have 30 people, right? Like that's the thing people are jealous of. And so I would say it's kind of two parts that I've worked on. I'm not probably doing a great part of it, which is just understanding and honestly acknowledging the people you want. That's part one, which is just like Alona, who's our CMO now. I think, I haven't had a one-on-one with her in a while. I canceled all my one-on-ones because we're kind of in a war mode. I was like, I just need to do what's most important right now versus set meetings. And I think she missed just being seen and missed like having a voice. And, with anybody who's key in your company, I would talk to them often if you don't want them to not be there and understand where they're at and if they have families, what they want to be doing. And if it's not good for them to be there, then also help them leave. Like we had a guy who's been with me 8 years. I've had two guys who've been with me 8 years that are leaving this year. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's time. Like it was probably 2 years ago it was time, but we have loyalty and you want them to win. So I think that's one, is just really connecting with your key people. I think the second thing is incentives is way under talked about. Incentives is probably for most people like the probably least underutilized thing in business. Incentives need to keep evolving. So at AppSumo with our leadership team, we have a lot of incentives on net revenue growth, but not on NOI or net operating income. And I'm like looking at NOI all the fucking time. I'm like, how's our NOI? What's our NOI? Like NOI is shit. What are we doing about it? How are we making sure investments are good? And so, salaries like pricing in businesses should get evaluated regularly. And so our sales team has disincentives for companies to go out of business, but I don't think they're painful enough. On the other side of that, I don't think they get rewarded enough if a company sells well and stays in business. And so we're redoing our comp model to pay our sales team even more for products that are selling even better. So I'd say those are the two things around for the key people you have with you. And then how do you know you have a key person? It's very simple. Without you asking, are they making things better? That's all you have to look for. Like, did they change something to make it better without permission? Period. And then the second part is really understanding the incentives. Like, do they have kids? Do they want to try to retire? Are they trying and equity is one way of doing it. I don't know if we'll ever go public. Maybe one day we'll sell. So I don't know if that's the best thing to give to someone if it's not true, but understanding, what incentives are going to motivate them productively to align to the things within your business. I think it's probably should be spent way more time on.
Did you give equity already to the people in your company or?
Yeah, I've gone all over the place with equity in 15 years. I started it with just me and my partner, and then Andrew Chen got 5%. And then it was mostly just the three of us. And then I gave a few other people just a little bit. And then at one point we had a phase where I was like, okay, we're going to go public. Everyone's going to get some equity. And it was just it wasn't honest. I don't know if I really wanted to go public. Like I don't do well with the restrictions. And so there are people that have equity, but yeah, we haven't been hiring at all. Mostly we've been reducing, but moving forward, I don't think we would be giving equity. It would be more cash compensation. We're also considering like phantom equity. So like, hey, if we ever sell, you'll get some % of the sell versus like, equity is a marriage. They're on the cap table forever.
So right now you're giving more like cash bonuses at the end of the year based on like specific objective and
yeah, just profit share. Normally we've had this year it's been a tough year. I'm not going to fake it. I'm like, oh yeah, we're crushing $1 trillion like a lot of these other YouTube influencers. Yeah, normally we have profit share and we're pretty generous with flying people to Mexico, the team trip stuff that's on your page. This year has been a tougher year for us to be able to do as much of that as we'd like. But historically, it's cash compensations plus team retreats plus swag. Like it's my AppSumo jacket. Yeah, my AppSumo jacket.
Nice. There's all this in partnership with Patagonia.
Yeah, and cool gear that we do. We'll have a little bit of this stuff this year, but not as historical. And I think the team gets that. And I admire a lot of people that are at our company for how much they care. It's really hard to hire that. It's really hard to hire people that just really want it to win, even when it's tough. Like we've had a tougher year than in a long time. And it's sometimes when people don't want to be there, it's great. They're like, oh, cool, I got an easy job, or I'm not really noticed. But the ones that are, you want to be there and then they stick through this is, have a lot of appreciation. I do my best to try to acknowledge them, either just with verbally or seeing them publicly, as well as, if we can at the end of the year with some with compensation.
And how do you find like such talent? Because I think you've had like you've been great at hiring, to be honest. Like the team, I think is really smart, and you kept like some key people for a really long time. So like, do you have a specific process to find these great people, or is it?
I haven't hired anyone in a while. I'd say all of our best people are homegrown.
Okay.
All of our best people started as like junior salesperson, junior marketer, and have worked their ways up. I think that's been, every time I've hired someone that's like, we hired like a $400,000 person that was supposed to be a game changer. And it was like, after a month, I was like, fuck. And it was honestly like,
you knew
how much? Yeah, it ended up costing us like $500,000, and the person, oy vey. And so I think the homegrown thing is one way to do it. Second thing is trials. Just like try. I think that one has been, you could see them. You could see their work. And then third, I would say like just look for people already doing things. Look for the people already, you're like, I like what this person's doing. And I found a lot of success with that. And then, maybe lastly, look to your audience when you're hiring. So when we're trying to hire, can I email out to Noah Kagan, my email list at noahkagan.com, or AppSumo social or AppSumo mailing list, where find people who already kind of get you versus people you have to try to convince about you. It's very hard for you to try to out-hire one of these like billion-dollar overnight AI companies. It's very hard to try to get those people. And so you're trying to get not all Moneyball people, but you're trying to get the people who are a little bit more on the come up because you're able to afford them. And I think they appreciate that and stick with it a little bit longer because of that too. So like with my social media team, when I was doing more YouTube, a lot of it was homegrown, and it was people that followed me and I liked their stuff, or they reached out and I gave them a trial, and over time they were able to make 6-figure fat salaries making YouTube and social content with me. But it wasn't that way to start. It was trials and projects.
No, I think it's a lot of good advice. I know we're almost like running out of time, so
okay.
The final question.
That's it.
Yeah, time flies. Do you sometimes like think of like 10 years from now, what is like the one thing I wish I had done that you're not doing right now, and what would that be?
I mean, last night I did think, am I going to regret not spending more time with like my mom or with my family? Because I'm working a lot. I'm working hard. And so I don't think I want every day to be this hard for the next 10 years. I would regret if it was like 9 to 5 so intense where like I kind of come downstairs with nothing left. I think that's definitely what I would regret. I think the other thing that I noticed it's not actually in 10 years, it's in one day, is that I have noticed my own behavior. Maybe this is not for everyone, but for myself, where I create a lot of anxiety around the problems I'm solving, and eventually I solve them, or people around me help solve them. It's not like only me, but I didn't need to make it so stressful to get there. But like right now I'm creating, and I think that's also my superpower is like I pressure and I create force and energy to make shit happen, but it's not fun. It's not like, oh, yay. It's like, I'm forcing this. And so more and more times I try to remind myself, like, you're going to solve this. You're going to get to the taco or the, margarita at the end of the road, or in France, like the baguette. The baguette's going to be there. You're going to get there. So can we do it? Can you just take a breath and be mindful of at least, getting to the destination in a relaxing way? So I definitely, I try to think back on that. Like, you're going to get to this 10 years and like, did you want to make it hard to get here, or do you want to make it, at least enjoy the journey around it more?
Do you think about the stories you're going to be able to tell, like when you make a decision? Because sometimes for me, when there's a like hard decision to take, I look at things kind of like, and I look at the option and I'm like, what's going to be like a fun story to tell, whether I choose A or B, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What I was thinking about is fantasy football. It's like, I know it's hard to believe there's so much advice in fantasy sports. And like, if you don't get fantasy sports, you think it's stupid. So I understand that. But in fantasy sports, you have each week play players, and what I've noticed regarding the future is that it's really hard to work on my next week's game if I don't feel stable and confident in this week's game. And so in all of our businesses, like I want to get to the 10-year view, but I'm still right now within the world of AppSumo, I'm so focused on like the next month, next 3 months. And so it's very hard to kind of start planning and getting ahead for it. I would regret around that. I was thinking about this morning, like, I think none of us want it to go away, but the reality is like all of us are going to go away in life. And if you look at companies from the year 1900, I think 4 companies that were the biggest then are still around, maybe 2. Let's like ChatGPT that for a sec. I want to see if I'm like full of shit. Hold on. Let's like do it.
Ask ChatGPT for a source also, because I think right now it's making up a lot of stuff also.
Oh, really? That's even better.
Yeah.
All right. I asked how many companies that were top 100 companies in 1900 are still around today. I think it's going to be 1 or 2. So, so how many survived? Only 9 of these companies remain today. That's actually better than I thought. 9%, supposedly. Banks, railroads, energy, utility companies. Oh, that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that either. It's kind of more utility-based businesses. But I guess my thought regarding that, to your telling the story, which I think is mine maybe is a similar way of doing it, which is, am I doing it at least the way I want? So we could fail, but at least am I honest with myself? Like, this is what I want to do, right? Like, I want to try this thing. And are you doing it because other people? Are you doing it because like you're scared? Or is it what you really, truly think you want to do? And if that doesn't work out, ça va. But otherwise, like, at least I played the game. I put in the players, as we went to fantasy football. I put in the players and did the thing the way I want. The game I can't always control, but at least I want to do it my way. And I think I'd regret if I didn't approach it from that way for the next 10 years.
Love it. And maybe like one final word, one final advice for people listening to the show.
I had a friend when I was 20. He's still a good friend. He wanted to be a billionaire, and I think he's worth 100 million now. So I think he's pretty happy at 100 million. And if you look at his career, he had a big vision, he had a big dream, and he did work. And he did work every year. And he's, the part that's interesting, maybe good or bad, is he's still working hard today, 15 years later, 20 years later. So I do think people think that the nice houses and the fancy cars or private jets or whatever it is, I think what people actually think is that like, oh, that's not for me. Not even that. They think I can't even get that. And I think the things I want to leave people with is like, you totally can. It's the thing that's awesome about business and success is that it doesn't discriminate. You don't have to be French. You don't have to be tall. You don't have to be good looking like Guillaume. You don't have to be that. And you can still succeed. He's got that and he's succeeding. God's blessed him. So I think that's part one, is that it's available for everyone who was willing to do work. And then the second part that's interesting is, I would say I was on a call with a guy today, and he's an AppSumo customer, and he's a designer, Sean, out in Florida. And I don't know how much he makes. I didn't get into that. But what I liked about him is that he seemed just content. And I've met a lot of really rich people, and I see a lot of these YouTubers, and I'm like, these people hate their lives. Hate. No amount of money is going to make their lives actually satisfying. And so, and I've interviewed billionaires. I've worked for billionaires. I've done pretty well financially. And I think there's something to find out about yourself, which is, how can you find the level of peace and contentment regardless, if you're making billions or you're making millions or hundreds of thousands. And I think that's something to aim for in our lives. Just find some level of balance of our contentment.
Wise words. Noah, thanks a lot for your time and sharing all of this with the audience. Where can people follow you or follow your journey? I know you've been,
Yeah.
I mean, you have a great book also.
Thanks. I got $1 Million Weekend. It's in French for the French listeners.
Nice.
Grab the book on podcasts I put out once a month on Noah Kagan. And then, check out AppSumo.com. #1 site online for software deals. Maybe we'll get Lemless there. Maybe there'll be some little special thing with Lemless in the next month or so.
Nice. Have an awesome day.
Thanks for having me, man.